So, how's it going, guys? Many of you guys have probably heard the unsolicited advice from your buddies that you need to keep your head down. Now, that may work for some people, but in general, this is bad advice because of the science and the anatomy of our body. And what that is involved with is our spine. And more specifically, we're going to be talking about how the neck influences our golf swing. And so, just to introduce this topic, what I want to introduce to you is the different parts of our spine. So, to start off, we have our atlas and axis, right? So, those movements contribute to the movement of side to side with our head and also up and down as well. Then, we also have just below that, we have our cervical spine vertebrae, which is 7 of them. So, C1 through C7. Then after that, we go into the thoracic spine, which has 12 of those, so T1 through T12. And then lastly, we have our lumbar, L1 through L5. And then from there, we have our sacrum and our coccyx. So all parts of that spine are all connected, right? So based off that, knowing that all those different segments from our head all the way down to our lower back and our hips is all connected, what do you think will happen if we have somebody trying to keep their head down? Well, it will limit their ability to rotate and be athletic within their golf swing, right? So we're going to go further into what you should be thinking of and what you should be doing when it comes to the neck and how they influence your golf swing. So when it comes to our head, it actually contributes to 8% of our entire body mass. Now, that may seem small, but however, when it comes to the golf swing, when small details, that'll actually matter in how our rotation and how we move dynamically within the golf swing. And so, now going into the neck, what I'm going to do is show you what actually occurs in the backswing and downswing when it comes to our neck and how that would influence how we should go about thinking about our golf swing. So, I'm going to give you an example. So, when I set up, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to rotate in my backswing, and what I'm going to do is try to keep my head down the entire time. So, I'm going to go start doing it, make a slow backswing. So, this is me trying to keep my head down completely, right? And as you can see, I did turn a little bit, but however, I'm not getting the maximum amount of rotation that I can have. And I'm going to do it on the other end, on the downswing. So, then I'm going to come in the downswing, and I'm going to try to keep my head down, right? So, again, as you can see, I have a good amount of rotation, but it's not maximum, and it definitely, on backswing and downswing, doesn't look like a golf swing that you would see normally. So, what actually happens when it comes to our backswing and our downswing? Well, if you think about it, when I turn, I actually am having left foot rotation of my neck. So, this will actually be my backswing, right? Because then if I turn this way, then this is my backswing. And on the other side, when it comes to my downswing, I'm actually rotating my head and my neck to the right. So it'll be here. And then if I would try to rotate, then that's my downswing right there. So now that we know that that occurs, what should actually be happening when it comes to our head and our neck? Well, it definitely should not be trying to keep our head down, because as you noticed, when I get to the backswing, there's a certain point where my arms break down and I'm no longer truly rotating my entire body, just because of how much range of motion is within the neck. And on the other end, it's the same case, right? I can't keep going and rotating dynamically if I try to keep my head down, and just because that puts too much torsion and range of motion on the neck. So what should we be doing? Well, in opposite to what many people think, there should be some amount of head sway both away and towards the target, right? And just think about it this way, right? So if I were to keep my head down the entire time, take my backswing, this is about how much I can rotate with keeping my head down. But if I sway my head away from the target, so if I move it this way, now I have a lot more range of motion in terms of my entire turn in the backswing. And on the other end, same thing occurs. So if I start to try to keep my head down on the downswing the entire time, right? But then I finally release it and have some head sway this way, then now I can complete my follow through. So what that does when I have head sway away and towards the target is actually it alleviates how much tension or turn and rotation I'm having at the neck. Because basically what I'm doing is if I left foot rotate and then move this way, when I release it away from the target a little bit, now you can see there's not as much torsion and rotation at the neck here. And that allows my thoracic spine and my body to rotate even more. And the same thing on the other end when I release it. Now I can go fully towards the target. And just with any athletic sport, right, such as baseball, I'm not keeping, when it comes to looking at the target, I'm not keeping my neck and my head rotated to the left, right? Because that won't allow me to have a full rotation to throw a pitch. And on the other end, I'm not keeping my head down this way, right? I have to release my head and my neck to the target. So that's seen in all athletic movements, in a baseball throw, in a football throw. And so why should we be doing that? Why should we be doing the opposite when it comes to our golf swing? So now that you understand that, we're going to turn it over to Dr. Anthony Evans, a physical therapist here locally within Waxhaw, North Carolina, and he's going to discuss with you the actual range of motion that your neck should have and what you should do if you have some limitations within your neck. So let's turn it over to him.
Hey there, I'm Dr. Anthony Evans, TPI certified physical therapist and golf performance coach. Today I want to go over a quick piece of the swing that I think is really commonly overlooked, and that is cervical rotation. In both the backswing and the downswing, we need at least 70 degrees of cervical rotation in order to make a backswing and a downswing that is both efficient and unrestricted. And in the golf swing, we want to eliminate these variables and inconsistencies, and so dealing with the neck is an easy place to start, but also an easy place to overlook. So I'm going to show you a quick TPI cervical rotation test that you can do at home to see if you might be having pain in the neck or restriction. So first thing you're going to do is place your feet together, hands together on the side. You're going to look straight ahead, mouth closed. And while keeping your mouth closed, I want you to turn your head as far as you can towards one direction and try and bring your chin to your collarbone, your clavicle. Okay, you'll repeat that test on the other side as well. And what you're looking for is as you turn, you don't want to open your mouth to reach that clavicle, and you don't want to shrug the shoulder up, okay? You want to easily be able to rotate your head both directions and bring that chin to that collarbone, that clavicle, and that will let you know that you have unrestricted rotation. Now, if you do that movement and you have pain, you have to make a compensation, or you just can't get into that position, that's an area that you might want to address, because if you don't have that cervical rotation, it's going to make both your backswing and downswing a lot harder, and it can also limit your thoracic rotation. So give that a try and reach out if you have any questions. Now, if you go through that last cervical rotation screen and you either had pain or you felt restricted in that movement, I'm going to go over a couple of exercises that I think will really help loosen up that neck. The first one here is just cervical rotation with some overpressure. So what you're going to do is actively turn your head as far as you can to one direction, and when you first start to feel some restriction, you're going to take your opposite hand and provide a little overpressure to get some extra range of motion. So here's what it looks like. Feel a little restriction here, take the opposite hand, provide a little extra push past that restriction. What you're going to feel is a deep stretch on the opposite side of this of the side that you're turning to. So if you're turning to the right, you're going to feel a stretch on the left side of the neck. So here's what it looks like again. And as you do that, you also want to keep that mouth closed. Don't let that shoulder raise up. Don't let the opposite shoulder raise up. So try and keep shoulders level, rotate, push into it. Now I want you to do repetitions of this. So each time you push into overpressure there, I want you to hold that for about 4 to 5 seconds and do 10 to 15 repetitions of this. Another really good exercise you can do to loosen up that cervical rotation is to perform thoracic twist. So your cervical spine sits just above your thoracic spine. So one way we can free up the cervical area is to move and mobilize the thoracic area. So what you can do is take a club. Here I've got a 9-iron. You're just going to place it right behind your head, holding that just on the top of the shoulders, and you're going to keep your head looking directly forward as you rotate that thoracic spine. Okay? Now, you can start off small here, right? Not big movements at all. The main thing is just that you don't allow that head to move, because what's happening is if I stop here or I keep going, you can see how much my head is actually rotating, and that's due to the thoracic spine moving. So as you warm up and you loosen up, you can start to go farther here. And so now you're getting a good amount of cervical rotation by moving the thoracic spine. Another quick movement you can do is to stretch your levator scapula. So if I'm going to stretch my left side here, and that's this muscle right through here, that's where we want to stretch. I want you to take your opposite hand, turn your head to where you're going to basically be looking down at your armpit, and you're going to pull your head in that direction. Now when you do that, you should feel a pretty deep stretch running right above your scapula and up into the back part of your neck through here. What you don't want is to pull this down and lean with it, because you won't really get into a good stretch. So you want to feel like your shoulders are remaining stable, and the only thing that's happening is you're pulling your chin and your nose towards that opposite armpit. You can do this standing or sitting, whatever gives you a more comfortable or deeper stretch. What you want to aim for is about 30 to 45 seconds of a sustained hold, and then coming out of that, you can throw in some of that active movement and see if the rotation improves. Okay, you can always test and retest. So before you go into it, turn, find out where the restriction is. You can perform this stretch a couple of times for 2 sets of 40 seconds, something like that, and then retest by going back into rotation to see if you've gained some increased range of motion or just decreased restriction or pain overall. But add this into your routine to free up that cervical rotation. Now, while you're working on that cervical rotation restriction that you might have, some things that you can do within your current swing that will make it feel a little less restricted, a little less painful, and help with some performance issues, provide a little better contact, is you can allow your head to release towards the target a little earlier. So one thing that people always say is keep your head down, stare at that ball well beyond the time that it's, left the club face. And so what ends up happening is as we get down to impact and we're staring and we're just staring in the club's release, we need a ton of cervical rotation in order to maintain that. And the fact is, most people don't have that, especially if you're not actively working on your mobility and strength in that area. So if you're trying to do that and you don't have that rotation, you're either going to be taking yourself into a painful position, or you just won't be able to do it. And then you end up coming up out of posture, or you make other compensations within the swing that you can't rely on from swing to swing or throughout the course of a round, and that leads to fat shots, thin shots, and everything in between. So one thing that you can work on is as you get to impact, instead of keeping that head there, allow it to actually release to the target a little bit earlier. And what that's going to do is free up chest rotation. You're not going to feel like your chest can't get to the target because you're allowing now that head to go a little bit earlier. And so your eyes are going to get down that target line a little bit earlier. It's going to feel strange at first, but what you'll feel is a lot more fluid motion, because now you're actually letting the body work together instead of that stiff cervical spine keeping you back. So I want you to try and practice. You can just do this with no club, at first either. No ball. You can start with just a club or no club at all. But the main thing is just as you get to impact, instead of keeping that head straight down, go ahead and allow it to release towards the target a little earlier, and you're going to find that it's a lot easier to get through the ball. If If you go through these stretches and exercises and you try these swing tips and you're still having issues, go ahead and reach out to me personally. I do have an online golf program where I help individuals increase swing speed, improve their mobility, their strength, and even rehab from exercises, as I'm a physical therapist. So you can go ahead and click the link below, reach out to me through DMs, and I'll be happy to help.